But I think that's probably about it for the weekly show. So now's the point where we take off that hat and we put on the other hat, which has nuts and bolts written on it. So straight into some good old esports topic. We got a few things, not a lot, because it's getting towards the end of the year and things are slowed down a little bit. But we do have a little something here. So there is...
Yeah. ESL's kept us gosh darn busy this last week.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But there's also been the Valerant Championship tournament, which happened over the weekend, I think. Came down to the final between Ascend and Gambit. You're seeing here the last moments of the last game. It went to five rounds, which was an incredibly long game set for when it's a best of, what is it, 27? No, because you got to get to 13 games to win, so it must be best of 25. And then you got to do that 5 times. That's a lot. But it's so great to see the first Valorant champions, because I keep forgetting, like, it feels like it's been out a lot longer than it has, but it only came out last year.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy seeing people's endurance like that, especially when they were doing a LAN event. So it's not like they were comfortable at home with their own setup, having whatever they wanted at their side. They were on a stage under the lights, having to perform, and yeah, like hours of gameplay, which is huge for a grand final like this. So good on both teams. It was definitely exciting having the back and forth like it was. I'm not sure if you guys caught any of the other highlights. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but Caden in our Discord mentioned it, and I was like, oh yeah, I do need to go back and watch it. And so yeah, some of the highlights were really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I recommend going back and watching. It's on Riot's Twitch channel if you want to have a look there. There'll be some clips and whatnot that you can do. That's where I've got this clip from that's playing at the moment. Obviously, if you're listening to us on the podcast, you won't be able to see that, but maybe tune into us live and then you get all this video content as well. Sorry, Morg.
Riot really know how to run events.
Oh,
they do. They did the full stage show and everything again with musical acts at the top, and yeah, it was, I don't want to say crazy. It was just it's super high level. Yeah.
They do. Waiting for the Valorant TV show like Arcane now.
Oh, doesn't the game have to be out for like 10 years before they do that?
I don't know, like you know, Overwatch had all those they had all those video stories about which is called videos, but like talking up the characters and giving you background on them. You know, even if they're just like little short stories, it doesn't have to be full on Arcane series, because that was epic. Just quietly, if you haven't watched it, even if you don't know the League characters, like I spent a lot of me watching it, going, "Are they a champion? Are they a champion? I don't know." But it's just a really good show, even if you don't know who's who and any of the background. But yeah, Riot they know how to put on a show.
Indeed, they do.
Moving on to some more local news, though, we got some exciting news for League of Legends fans in OCE. Split 1 for the LCO starts on the 24th of January. And I'm glad they didn't make it the 26th of January, because that's Australia Day for those playing along at home.
Oh, look, I'm just glad. I think I have so much trauma from the league being dissolved when it was the OPL that, like, anytime there's news coming out this year about OCE stuff, I'm like, oh, is it falling apart or is it continuing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I did know, obviously, the contract was there to support them for multiple years. So very good to see this going ahead. And yeah, Jan 24th is good. Give us a little bit of a break and then jump into the action again for the new year.
Oh, yeah. Going to be exciting. And there was a little bit more LCO news that got announced. But it was in conjunction with something else that I'm gonna let Morg talk about a bit, because there was a big event announced fairly recently.
Yeah, so this event was first hinted at in the Halo Championship Series competitive roadmap, which is DreamHack Melbourne, which is being hosted by ESL. So essentially, the DreamHack, which is a global combination of sort of esports and gaming event, is going to be held in Melbourne on September 2nd to September 4th, which the Melbourne Esports Open is actually usually hosted at the end of August. So I think this event's going to be completely taking over that in that space.
I was going to ask about IEM because it's been a rough couple of years for big get-togethers and big events like this. So have we heard anything about what IEM's going to be doing?
Nothing yet. They did when they announced the press release for cancelling Melbourne Esports Open and IEM for 2021. They did say that it'll be launching again in 2022 with it as an even bigger event. If that's hinting that it was going to be released as DreamHack instead, it's still up for debate. But I guess we'll see going into the new year. The venue's still to be announced in Melbourne, but if we're looking at where the Melbourne Esports Open used to be hosted, that was in the Melbourne and Olympics Park. So we may just see it returning there.
I don't know, not knowing Melbourne very, very well, I know you've got like lots of other sporting venues there, but I don't know like if they'd go on like a basketball court somewhere and occupy some of that, or if they might because I know PAX is at the convention centre they've got there. Yes. And yeah, surely there's some stuff over at Docklands as well that they can handle it. So it's not like Perth where you either go to the convention centre or maybe Ascot Racecourse, because they're the only two places big enough to hold any decent amount of people. They'll have options there, and I'm sure a lot of them will be crying out for things to happen.
Yeah, for sure. If we're looking at games specifically as well for DreamHack, so like you said, LCO Split 2's grand final will be held at DreamHack.
Live in-person grand final, yes!
Woo! It's going to be huge.
Yep.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that's going to take the time to travel out to Melbourne for this one, so it's definitely not one to miss. Also, as well as the LCO Split 2, you have the Halo Grand Finals happening there, which were hinted at in the HCS roadmap, and then also CSGO as well, which hints that IEM's probably not going to be returning.
Well, that one's an interesting one for me because I think it's an ESL Challenge number 50 for CSGO, and given the fact that I think there were a couple of orgs that let go of their CSGO teams this year, that's. Yeah, I don't know if they're throwing it in to just sort of give these teams some practice and try and keep them together, or if the scene's still big enough to support CSGO, because it does seem to be going downhill.
It's been a really rough year for CS. I think I read on Twitter that Conky, who owns Instafrag, a CSGO PUG service, was saying that every team, even though it went through a rough patch, stayed together or were able to play their games. But with the ESL Challenge now coming out, and I think there's one more Shock Esports, I think, that also hosts CSGO stuff. So it's now from 2 competitors, it's now going to 3 competitors for teams. So I'm not sure how the scene's going to withhold with that one.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see how 2022 plays out for CSGO. But yeah, seeing the Halo regional finals for ANZ happening at DreamHack, that's going to be amazing. Like I'm thinking I want to book tickets now and just go. I think I saw the tickets go for on sale for DreamHack in February, but yes. Yeah, just want to get in for flights now. Just get there. Do it. I want to do it. Because I would love to see not only the LCO Split 2 Grand Final live and in person, but also the Halo. And I really hope they don't do something silly like put them on at the same time. Please schedule them at different times so we can watch them both.
Was there an IEM thing in the past where it was Overwatch and CS were on at the same time, and the Overwatch arena was just empty because then they had Pasha up on stage in it for the CS portion, so it was really sad for the people sitting in there watching Overwatch.
Yeah, surely from an audience point of view, you wouldn't do that because you don't want to split the crowds. That's, not good. Not good.
Yeah, hopefully they don't have to do that this year. I mean, next year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But I've been hyping on a little bit about it, but I'm really excited for the Halo stuff. Like you mentioned it a bit more earlier, Morg, about how when they released Halo, they just dropped this competitive roadmap straight away. But there's been some issues already with it. Particularly, there was one user in North America you were mentioning about that was had edited their game a little bit and got into some trouble for it when it came to competitive.
Yeah, so Royal 2 from the Sentinels was accused of cheating at the start of this week. Effectively what he was accused of was geofiltering. So it's where he's edited his game files to influence which server that he gets match made on in the tournament. So effectively, since he was on the West Coast, the servers that they would generally be playing on would be central if they were in the Eastern Coast scene. But with that editing of files, it would make it so it would be a West Coast server chosen for the game, meaning he had favorable ping against Eastern Coast players. So he was accused of cheating via that. Royal 2 did put out a tweet long, effectively saying that he had put that setting on at the launch of the game because he was getting extremely high ping to Central American servers and accidentally failed to turn it off for the NA qualifiers.
Do we feel there's air quotes there or not? Is the question. Failed to.
There was a lot of controversy on Twitter around it. I think I looked at a Twitter poll, which was effectively going, do you think that it was the right punishment? Do you think it could have been a bit more lenient? And the majority of people were in between, they could have gone a bit more lenient, or it was the right punishment. Not a lot of people said he did nothing wrong. So the controversy there is, was it too strict of a punishment or not, where he's not allowed to go and play at Raleigh in North Carolina?
Yeah, I hear them say Raleigh, but yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Like, when it's claimed to be an accident or not, you should probably know the rules of the competition you're competing in and not forget that you have beneficial settings.
Yeah, so when I've run tournaments in the past, it's always gone, if you did want to raise concerns about a rule, generally it's prior, depending on the rule itself, but it's prior to the game, you should be raising it. For example, is having they had mostly subs, and then they would raise the issue with them having too many different players from their core roster after the match, because they lost. It's like, what would be the difference if that was before the match to after the match?
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
I think they reset bracket for the qualifier, and then I believe Royal 2 was subbed out and they still won.
So okay, so he wasn't playing through the whole competition.
At the end, I think they swapped him out when it was accused of cheating for a different sub.
Interesting. What's your take, Blue?
Or I think surely they should have checked beforehand.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they have enough prep time. It's. I think the punishment for the crime, you need to check. You need to check your equipment first, check your settings, and then sorry. I'm pretty hard like that. I'm all for rules, and if you break the rules, you deal with the consequences.
All right. A hot line there from Jim.
Yeah, I think. Look,
Blue, sorry.
I tend to be a little bit more lenient on stuff, and to me, it would depend on. Like, I don't know how easy it is to do this, and like when a game first comes out, you might want to play on a server closer to you. So, I mean, if you can prove somehow that he did it when the game first came out, and then that's probably enough evidence to say, well, it was turned on back then. He could have forgotten about it. And that said, it was still there. It was still against the rules, so there should be some form of punishment with it. But I think that if you could prove that he said it and then forgot about it, that the punishment should be less than if he did it deliberately before the start of the tournament, because that proves that's willful and malicious cheating then.
Yeah, I'm with Blue 1,000,000,000%. Like, players need to adhere to the rules, just like teams need to adhere to contracts. And like, if we want esports to be taken seriously, people need to treat it seriously. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, you can't, I don't know, take a super powered racket into a tennis game and be like, oh, but I was given this as a gift 10 years ago. Like, it wouldn't fly in any other sport.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's about all the news we got. But like at the end of the weekly show, where we were doing some stuff about this year, I want to ask about esports predictions for 2022. And I think a big one that I've got that I don't think is going to be a surprise to anybody, given the amount of support it's already come out with. But the HCS, the Halo Championship Series, is going to take off in a big way.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
It's a pretty safe one too. I've started with a nice safe one. Yeah,
safe bet. But we're not against safe bets here.
No, that's right. I've got some more. I've got some other hot takes further down my list, so we'll get to them in a bit. But what about you, Natty? What do you reckon is going to happen for 2022 in esports?
Well, this is leaning into my interests specifically, but last week, Faker, for those of you who don't know, Faker's one of the best players in the world at League of Legends, was playing TFT. And I think that there are a lot of TFT players, League of Legends players, that are a bit done with competitive League of Legends. Maybe their reflexes aren't as good as they used to be. Maybe they just want to mix it up a bit. But I think we're going to see TFT bounce up, where we've already started to see a lot of the bigger streamers like jump over to it. This year was big for Disguised Toast and Scara playing it a lot with offline TV. But also Soju, who's one of the best players in North America, has been getting around 30k streams most days, and he'll stream for 16 hours straight multiple days in a row. This is a really stream friendly game too, so I think it's going to take off in 2022, and I think the competitive scene's going to go along with it.
Nice.
How much Riot supports with TFT at the moment?
Pretty good. They were reasonably generous with the prize pools for the world champs for this year. So they do split similar to what they do with their other games, where they have the mid-year and then the end of year. I can't recall off the top of my head, but we were looking at, the 30, 40, 50k mark for those events. And they do a lot of things, like for local tournaments, they'll give away eggs, which for people who haven't played TFT, you have a little character that represents you called a little legend. So imagine like a loot box, but it's the little character that runs around on the map like you, and they'll throw in a lot of those kinds of prizes for local tournaments as well. So, the ultimate tick of approval would be if ESL started running tournaments for it, but I haven't seen that yet. Maybe that's coming.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. How about you, Morg? What's your biggest pick for 2022 for esports?
Well, I was pretty much along the same lines of Straight. With that massive support from the Halo devs with the esports competitive scene, we're going to see that skyrocket up. I think we did see, to jump from Halo to Valorant, we did see a pathway open up for APAC teams into the VCT, I think yesterday. So that was announced yesterday. So I think Australian Valorant's looking pretty good.
Well, the only reason we missed out on, because we had those teams that were going to go to the Valerant last chance qualifiers, but only missed out because of travel arrangements. So yeah, I think Australia's still doing pretty well in Valorant, especially given that it's only a year old. So I think that we'll continue to do pretty well there too.
Yeah, have you had I can say words, sorry, Lou. Have you had a chance to think about what might be coming for esports in 2022, or maybe even what you might want to will into existence? That is also an acceptable response here.
No, I had a lot of fun this year with the LCO and the League of Legends stuff, so I'm hoping that continues strong. But yeah, I'm with Straight Halo. That's
not going to give us a hot take like PGG to take both splits, you know?
They've got to announce the teams first before I can make that call.
I was going to say they've announced one. They've got Praetor Cup got signed today for they announced that Praetor signed for PGG, but Decoy's announced that he's going to Brazil, so they've lost him as a player. Yeah, and I know all the rest have been looking for international options. So I'm pretty sure I saw a rumor about Tally going to another team as well. So moving from Peace. So but nothing official's been announced. So I think there's going to be a fair amount of player movement over the next few weeks before the LCO Split 1 kicks off.
I suspect most of those contracts are signed, just they'll want to announce it closer to the date to start building a bit more excitement.
Yeah, and probably at least after Christmas.
Yeah, for sure.
But
pretty
one thing... sorry, go on, Morg.
I'm pretty confident that an A team will probably win the HCS. This up in the grand finals international stage next year.
Yeah, no, that's a reasonable call considering, I feel like Halo's always had that US
Halo and COD
backing. Yeah,
the Americans love their first-person shooters.
That they do.
Yeah.
So I have a big one because I'm a big World of Tanks ANZPL fan. I love that this year Perth got into the grand final, and a bit of background because I have to explain this because I've got my prediction, but I've also of what's the results going to be, but I've also got how they're going to do it, and I'm going to get specific because if it happens, I'm going to clip this and send it round to everybody, and if it fails, I'm going to find the VOD and delete it. So we're just going to go with that. But yeah, so Perth ended up in the grand final this year for season 3 of World of Tanks ANZPL. They didn't take home the Chocky Bickies in the end. Melbourne Matildas got the win and were season 3 champs. But the way they got in, there's 8 teams in the league, and heading into the last round, they were 7th. And they managed to win in the last round and jump up into fourth, I think it was. So they qualified for finals. They beat the Sentinels, who were the then two-time reigning champions of ANZPL, and they got them into the grand final. So that was a really nice fairy tale, but I think the reason that they lost was it wasn't a fairy tale enough thing. They need more of a fairy tale story. So what I think is going to happen for Season 4 of ANZPL is that Perth are going to be 8th going into the last round. And they're going to pull some amazing stuff out. They're going to win all the games. They're going to take everything in that last round. And they're going to get into 4th again. And then they're going to have their dream run through to the grand final and win. And because it's more of a fairy tale story, it's more of those 1 in a million shots that always happen to come true, that they're going to win.
All right. We will
Fingers
clip
crossed.
this.
Think it's yeah.
I'd wish you luck, but Action X is going to get you this year. The 2022. That's my prediction.
But yeah, I also have another prediction that this year is going to be the year that I beat JR in the timping competition. It's going to happen. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I have faith. I have faith.
Gotta have faith.
That's it.
Yes.
Come close. Like, I do all right, but I just seem to fall down at the last hurdle. I blame his insider information because JR is Jake Truman, who's the associate producer of Wargaming for the ANZPL. So I blame that because he's got a lot of insider knowledge. So the fact that I'm up there at all, I think, is a minor miracle.
I wanted to ask you guys a question, just because it's something that came up in my mind and I don't know the answer. So it's not a prediction, but it's do you think that the metaverse, as in Facebook, is going to make any moves in esports? We've seen them trying to make their way in gaming and streaming and having some success. But I'm wondering if you guys think that they're going to try and make any grabs toward esport, whether that be audience integration with the Quest, or whether that's launching their own titles. Who knows? What do you guys think?
Depends on their motives. Like,
all right.
And the fact that a lot of people come into esports thinking they're going to make money.
Yes.
And esports is a massive loss leader. Even if you look at Riot with like Worlds, they lose so much money with that. So in that aspect, if they're expecting to come into the market to make money, like people in esports know and can tell, and just won't use your brand if your motives aren't, I want to say, like, righteous.
I would look at it a different way, because like I would see Facebook getting into esports to start with more from the broadcast side of things. So they would need to offer like companies like Riot and or even the games like Dota and Halo and all that. Because regardless of how they've tried to break in with Facebook gaming and stuff like that, and regardless of how badly Twitch try to stuff things up sometimes, Twitch is still the go-to place when you're talking about video game streaming. And I think if Facebook and the metaverse are trying to break into that, then they need to go to the broadcast side first, because that's where they're better positioned to break in. That said, I don't know how that would work, and it would involve a lot of commercial agreements. Because I also don't think that Facebook gaming is separate enough from Facebook itself to attract that. And that's always been a problem for me with Facebook gaming, is in that it's not separate enough from everything else, and it's just all in the one feed. And it just, like, my Facebook feed, I very rarely see stuff from my friends on there anymore. It's just full of random shit that I followed, and it just all drowns each other out. So I think that Facebook gaming would have to separate itself out first, and then maybe look at the broadcast side of things first, and then if all that goes well, they might be able to move into esports.
That's a very analytical call there. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, I'm
Anybody
with,
else? Yeah. What do you think, Blue?
yeah, I'm with straight. Get the broadcasting down right, done right first, and then look into branching out back into gaming, and looking at getting into esports properly. And then, yeah, then there'll be a competitor for Twitch, I think.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting that we've seen Ludwig and YouTube launch like a kind of a bid toward esports with the Smash Bros tournaments that they've got planned coming up. So I'm very interested to see what the future of esports is like on YouTube, because I feel very much like people go to Twitch and they interact on Twitch and it gets multi-streamed on YouTube, and there is a little bit of an audience there, but it's mostly there for the rewatch later. So that'll be interesting to see if that can shift slowly the other direction as well.
Yeah, it'll be YouTube as well as a bit interesting in that regard, because like whenever there's an event that I go to watch on YouTube and it has live chat, I hide that automatically. But that's also because I'm watching something that's got 100,000 people watching it at the same time, and there's no way in hell I'm going to keep up with the copy pasta that's going on in there. So I just hide it and ignore it because I'm more concerned with what's going on the screen. But I feel like YouTube's better positioned for that sort of stuff, and they are improving what they're offering to streamers. And they've shown that they want to solidify that with getting Ludwig on board. But I still feel like the produced for YouTube content and the live content, I don't know, like they just still don't sit well, and then like there needs to be a way to sort of separate out almost. This is streamer content and this is pre-recorded content, you know?
Yeah.
Have you tried to live stream on YouTube?
I
recently?
haven't, no.
It's not. It wasn't a fun process.
No?
What was your experience?
I think when you sign up, I think you have to wait like 24 hours or something before you can actually start live streaming. So you have to like essentially apply for it on your account. It's probably some sort of like anti-botting measure or something like that.
So even if you've been uploading videos and have a reasonable number of followers and stuff like that, you still have to wait 24 hours.
I believe so. If you want to start streaming, you can't just, hey, I want to start streaming from now. I've never done it on YouTube. Let's go. Pretty sure there is a wait period associated with it. That was my experience anyway.
Yeah, this is something that I would like to talk about, and probably is more suited to Streamaholics when that returns in the new year. But it's and especially with like, because myself, I have my own personal Twitch account that I do streaming on, and I'm an affiliate. And there's things in there that say you can only stream to Twitch, or whatever you do on Twitch, it has to wait 2 days to go onto another medium type thing. And I have thought about previously giving up the affiliate and just doing a multi-stream thing to see if I could reach more of an audience. But I don't have enough knowledge of how YouTube is or how Facebook gaming is to stream to really know too much about it. But yes, interesting. That was a good question, Natty. I think getting Facebook involved in esports, but I kind of see them more as a broadcast partner. So I'm not sure if they would get into that, or if they'd get into that with an eye of being the broadcaster for it.
Anybody else have any other predictions for the coming year? Or are we at the end of our list?
I want to hear some more hot takes. Who's got some hot takes? Come on.
Hot takes. I feel like somebody from the AFL is going to get involved in esports again. it's not going to be the Crows because they tried and it didn't work.
Yeah, well, they just sold
because
Legacy to Kangaroo Esports. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was exactly what Morg was talking about before, getting into it for the right reasons. You know, you'd want to get into esports to expand your brand, but not necessarily expect it to turn a coin, which was the problem with the Crows, was that the people that were there at the time believed in it and carried the vision and carried it, but when they left, it wasn't instilled in the company and in the business. So when they were gone, it was done. So I think that there's gonna be interest from another team. They're gonna do a CS:GO team or a Halo team, or I don't know what it is. Something is gonna pop up from another AFL team. That's my
Well,
hot take.
that's also an interesting one because now both the Bombers and the Crows have tried getting esports teams off the ground. I'm not sure what happened to the Bombers one. I can't remember what happened there. That, given the fact that I don't remember, probably means that it just sort of died a slow death. But then you get people like Mitch Robinson from the I wanted to call them the Brisbane Bears there for a second, but that's showing my age. The Brisbane Lions streaming on Twitch and getting a pretty decent following. So I don't know. Yeah, it's I don't think AFL. I don't think AFL's the right sport to do that because AFL is very sanitized and corporate driven. So, like you say, unless you get people that are super passionate about it into those positions, all the CEOs and the boards of the AFL clubs are going to look at it and then go, how can we make money out of this? Which you can't do with esports straight off the bat. You've got to let it settle. You've got to let it generate it, and which is silly because you'd think a traditional sporting club would know the value of building the grassroots first, because that's always the best way to build up interest in something, and it's a long-term investment. You're talking like 5 to 10 years of starting at the bottom, building up and letting those players come through and then letting them hit the main stage. But yeah, I just don't think that AFL clubs have the right mindset high up to deal with that sort of growth in an esports team.
Oh, gosh. Well, that was my not hot take, maybe like unlikely to happen take, but I've got a feeling take.
Sorry, I kind of came in and over the top of that one, Natty.
No, it's good. It's good. This stuff is good to promote discussion for sure.
I'm getting on my soapbox here a couple of times, but
it's good. You know, like it was funny. We were talking about it last week with like Manny Pacquiao having he's starting his own esports team, but it's not really him. It's just he's lending his likeness to a team, and that's potentially a road that we might see an esports team take, where they want to be affiliated or partnered with a sporting team, rather than the sporting team themselves running it.
Probably the safer bet.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that allows them to leverage the best parts of each other without unfair expectations of performance. So,
yeah, interesting. So I think that's probably going to be about it for this episode of Nuts and Bolts. The last one for 2021. We'll be taking a break over the Christmas break and coming back late January, so we'll have a good time off. Hopefully by then we'll have some more news. LCO will be starting then, so we should have at least some LCO roster news.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Morg and Blue. Great to have you on and have some different viewpoints there. I want to say thank you very much, Natty, for joining me and helping me get some information out there about esports, and I've definitely learned a lot because I'm still pretty new to esports in general, and loved doing this show with you.
Yeah, I love it too. It's always, as I said, favorite night of the week. So much fun, and I'm new-ish as well to esports, so it's always a good learning journey. Us kind of feeling out and exploring new topics, which is good. So, and it's absolutely wonderful to have had you here, Morg and Blue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. Have you clicked the subscribe button yet? Have you given us a thumbs up and maybe commented on the video too? Have you done that yet? Have you done it? Oh, cheers. Oh, cheers. Thanks.